Real Bragging Rights is presented by Steel Shad. Fish Bite It, now available at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. And by GoPro. Be a hero. For 8 months of the year, Jim Root is on the go. It's a tough job, but hey, somebody's got to do it.
You've traveled all over the world this winter. We followed you on Facebook. Jealous.
But from fishing the most exotic places to catching personal bests, Jim measures everything against a humble but fierce football-shaped fish.
I haven't thrown a bass rod in 8 months.
No. But when you come home and you lock into some brown ones, nothing beats it.
I've always said brown fish are my first love.
No doubt.
First grade, and Jim's mind is already captured by the smallmouth of Lake Oneida, New York. Over the next decade, he became an expert fisherman here, and his heart has never left this place.
Hey everybody, welcome to a very special Real Bragging Rights. We are in my home state, fishing my home lake with some of my closest friends in the fishing industry. It feels like $1 million to be home.
You've got a lot to prove when you host a tournament on your home waters.
This is what we're gonna do. Team event.
3 boats of 2, and Jim is pitted against dual father and son teams, each with years of experience on Lake Oneida.
Each team has got to bring in 1 largemouth and 1 smallmouth.
I think what you're gonna need to win, if you catch 2 over 20 inches, I think you're doing really, really well.
It's got to be 20 inches.
It's got to be 4.5, 5 pounds for a smallie.
We're gonna measure them, we're not gonna weigh them, because everyone's scale is off, especially yours. And the longest one of each combined is the winner. I'm really confident that we're gonna catch a ton of fish. However, each guy on each team can only measure 1 fish towards your total. Everybody understand the rules?
Yep.
Got it. No live bait, no wake in the river. Loser is gonna wash dishes at the Millhouse Marketplace.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right? Okay, let's do it. Good luck to you.
It's a one-day contest to catch the biggest of both bass worlds.
We got this. We got this.
The smallmouth, or brown bass, is native to the northern states and can grow to over 25 inches. Pound for pound, it's one of the strongest fighters of all freshwater fish. Catching spring smallmouth sometimes requires versatility, but these teams came prepared.
Real nickname is Mickey, but it's Doc, Reaper, Deacon.
An alter ego for every fishing situation.
Our game plan this week, coming up to Oneida, you know, get it dialed in and just have a ball and catch 100 to 200 fish a day.
Just be sure you don't outshine the doc.
And then the ugly person comes out of me. Then I turn into the Deacon.
Our game plan for this week was power fishing and throw jerk baits, swim baits, just based on past history.
Measure it.
Measure it? That's not worth measuring.
No?
You're on our spot.
This is my great-grandpa's spot, man.
That is a big one. Right out of the gate, it was almost like we were falling into fish.
That's a beauty. Right on the top of the mouth.
Perfect conditions. Perfect bite. Perfect time to try out a new toy.
I tie on this new bait that I've been working on with Steel Shad. My very first cast, I was adjusting the brake and I got it right and lifted up and I had a 4.5 pounder on.
Good one, coming up.
That's what we want right there, boy. Oh, don't come off, don't come off. Big one.
Man, that's a beauty, dude.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo!
First cast, boom, sticks a hog.
Look how fat that fish is. It's wider than my hand.
Meet the biggest fish on the block so far.
Yeah, first cast. I mean, the cool thing is the lure you designed. We were just talking about it.
I teamed up with Steel Shad and we designed this bait, and it actually comes with the hook, and I designed the hook. The cool part about this hook is that it's made of tin, so it allows us on a 3/8 to have a bigger head than you would have with lead. The key to a good swim bait bite is not a tail wagging back and forth. It's actually making that bait roll from side to side like this.
The bigger jig head displaces more water around the lure, allowing it to wobble. This action better imitates a real bait fish.
But also you need to have the right type of hook. The angle of the shank on that head, as you can see, the way that it sets like that on the bait, the gap of the hook is completely exposed, which will allow you maximum penetration when you set the hook on that fish.
But this water has been churned up by heavy rains. So today, Pearl White is Jim's choice, for better visibility.
I only made a 5-inch bait and a 7.5-inch bait because with 3.5-inch baits, you just catch a lot of little fish. With the bigger baits, you won't catch as many, but the ones that you catch will be the right ones. It's a great bait.
Jim's catch stands at 18.5 inches, but 70 yards away, Team Dolinsky is inching their way up.
That's a nice fish, bro.
Yeah, metric.
If it's real big, bring it over.
This might be our smallmouth fish here, 19 to 3/8.
Good one.
Do we risk it or not?
We ain't gonna tell you what to do. You're not gonna get any help from us on that regard.
What do you think, guys?
The number you called is no longer in service. Please hang up and try your call again.
Real Bragging Rights is presented by Steel Shad, Fish Bite It, and by Proven Insect Repellent, repels more, protects longer, surprisingly gentle, provenrepellent.com. And by Stormer, defy the elements, stay dry with Stormer, stormrusa.com. On Lake Oneida, New York, Jim Root is hosting a spring bass competition.
Okay, let's do it.
Each team can count only 2 fish, one smallmouth and one largemouth. So far, the smallmouths have been working their way closer to the magic number, 20 inches.
19 to 3/8. What do you think, guys?
We ain't gonna tell you what to do.
Team Root's biggest smallmouth is 18.5, while Team Dolinsky has edged them out at 19 3/8. And Team Catala hasn't even measured a fish yet.
We risk it or not?
You're not gonna get any help from us on that regard.
Now, here's the tricky part of this competition. The longer the teams stay here to try for even bigger smallmouth, the less time they will have to find the largemouths, which are in a completely different part of the lake.
I don't think this jerkbait is going to give us the size fish we're looking for today.
No?
No.
What do you think will?
Stupid Ned rig.
I wanted to power fish it from the very get-go. I mean, I started throwing that swim bait.
Yep.
My plan was I was gonna catch him on that swim bait, catch him on a jerk bait.
But Jim soon realizes the bigger fish are hugging the bottom because of the strong current. Time for a lure change.
I was throwing a jerkbait a little bit, but I wasn't getting the right sweep that I wanted. The river was cooking. So I ended up downsizing and going to a Ned rig. And
I actually told you to do that.
yeah, he did, but you know. Ned rig, 2.75. It's pretty simple. Anybody can use it technically. The color we picked today is a goby color. And the cool thing about it is we got lucky with the color. On the dock, the seagulls were eating crayfish. And the claws
Were purple, blue, and pink. Yeah, I'd actually never seen that color craw in this lake. It's not a color choice that I would have chosen for a craw. I mean, it's a good goby color.
Yeah, it was a goby color, had a nice purple blue flake in it. The claws were the exact color. So we switched it up, downsized a little bit, and it seems to be fire. So we'll see what we can do with it. Anybody can fish it. Throw it out, let it hit the bottom, shake it twice, set the hook. Once we found the color pattern, it was over.
But for nearby Team Catala, it's far from over.
A little guy.
They're having a hard time just getting started.
Sad, right? I mean, we're catching a lot of fish. It's just not too bad. It's all right.
I knew I wasn't going to get big fish on the jerkbait this trip. You were throwing a jerkbait.
Right.
You got the bigger fish out of the deal.
Right.
Sometimes fish just don't eat fast food.
He's just got more patience with that jerkbait, so.
The bite was longer. You just had to let it sit for a while.
You hit it hard.
Oh, it's a small one. Oh, a fighter, too.
26, 27, 28.
You were marinating that jerkbait out back.
Definitely old man fishing with the jerkbait this time.
Bring him around the side.
Wow. Johnny, big fish.
It was a nice fish, beautiful fish.
All right, Pops.
Go fish du jour right here.
Fish du jour.
Finally, the Catalas have made a showing. But they'll have to push this length further to keep up with Jim Root in his home territory.
The length of the day.
Mega.
There's a difference between confidence and credulity. For Jim, it's based on experience.
I really do kind of consider this lake, Oneida Lake, to be my home lake. I love fishing here in April, but we're here at this time of year in particular because the smallmouth from the lake will come in here into this river chasing the shad, and then the smallmouth will actually bed themselves in here and then go back out onto the lake. So it's almost like the conditions are perfect.
But so far, all the teams are fairly close. It's time to shake things up.
The variable here is the largemouth bite.
With the teams practically tied on smallmouth, they decide it's time to leave the river for the largemouth grounds. They're heading to a mysterious area of the lake that had Jim puzzled a few years ago.
I thought first that the graph was broken, so I started to panic a little bit. I thought, oh my God, some company's probably dumping stuff in here or whatever.
But sometimes fish are smarter than we are.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to another behind-the-scenes episode of Real Bragging Rights. In this episode, of course, I was home, but right now I'm in sunny Florida. I'm filming down here, and I'm actually getting ready to go to my absolute favorite largemouth lake in the world. And when this little behind-the-scenes episode ends, I'm gonna give you a sneak peek at what we caught down here last time, Emily and myself, to kind of get you ready for what's to come here over the next few days.
For Jim Root and his buddies, the biggest smallmouth on Lake Oneida are hovering around 19 inches. To win in their three-way contest, they'll next need to find the biggest largemouth in the lake. And that means heading to a very unique place.
I'm going to show you this really special phenomenon that happens here in the spring. It's called Big Bay Creek.
Welcome to a mini Everglades in upstate New York.
Now, I first figured out what happens here about 6 years ago with Maddie and his father. We saw something that seemed really unexplainable at the time. There's the northern largemouth right there. The main lake was 45 degrees. At the back of that bay, near the mouth of Big Bay Creek, it was like 55, 56. Further we went up that creek, the warmer the water got, the more fish we started to catch, until at the top, that water was between 75 and 80 degrees.
Warm water with no apparent source.
What was alarming to me was that we hadn't even had a day yet where the air temperature was over 70, and here was this incredibly warm water. It felt like bath water. So I started to panic a little bit. I thought, oh my God, some company's probably dumping stuff in here or whatever.
So Jim went home and did some research, using one of fishing's greatest tools, Google Earth.
And I just saw that it was a giant swamp. So then I started to think about it. And I started to think about what that area in that swamp looked like and how it was all basically like black mud. Gotta be one right here. And the water back there, maybe a couple inches deep max. Passive solar heat. The sun is solar heating this water, cranking it up to like 75, 80 degrees on a sunny day. That warm water acts like a magnet, and it just draws in tens of thousands of fish. Hundreds and hundreds of big largemouth. We've had days in there where the fish are so thick in that creek, you literally could almost walk on them.
Unfortunately, today is not one of those days. They've missed the peak by a week or so, but there are still a few smaller largemouth to be caught here.
That is what that's the species, but that's definitely not the one that we're looking for.
It seems all the teams are catching the same bass, with the exception of a random pickerel.
I love going into that swamp. I thought it was pretty dope. You know, I've never fished anything like that before. Just tons of structure to throw at. I made a couple hundred pitches just in probably 2 hours.
13.
Some nice fish. They weren't, you know, big fish, but they were.
Fortunately, the wrong size,
Yeah.
but
I knew that the creek wasn't gonna be what we wanted it to be. Not the numbers, and definitely not the 6s and 7s that I knew were probably in there a week ago. And so we had a decision to make. It was, do we sit here and grind it out, or do we throw in the towel and go back and try to upgrade our smallmouth?
Logic trumps chance, and two teams leave to return to the smallmouth in the river. But the Dolinskis stay behind for the afternoon, hoping the heat will draw bigger largemouth into the swamp. For a comfortable home base close to dozens of fishing options in central New York, the Sanctuary Inn can accommodate you with country elegance. Search Sanctuary Inn on Facebook for details. And after a day on the water, the nearby Millhouse Market can top off your tanks with great food and drink. Real Bragging Rights is presented by Steel Shad, Fish Bite It, and by Breakline Optics. Vision is everything. Shop now at breaklineoptics.com. And by Sea2Sea Baits, made by fishermen for fishermen. Shop now at sea2seabaits.com. Jim Root and his buddies have fished the swamp for 2 hours in search of the big largemouth that sometimes swarm here. But with no sizable largemouth caught, two teams decide to go back up the river to increase their smallmouth size. But the day is slipping away, and the river has miles of no wake zone, so the trip back eats a lot of precious time.
We had probably the fastest boat out of the group, but you know, a 5-mile no wake zone.
We definitely ate some time up making that run.
That it was really anybody's ball game.
I mean, all in all, the best part, we just went out and we had fun. Like, it was just a good time.
This is the pace life should be. Gives you time to reflect.
So how did we meet, anyhow? I don't
The
even...
Rockland County show.
Oh, that's right.
You were just getting started up. You know, we just hit it off. We talked about some fishing, and you know how fishing goes. Once somebody else fishes, you're instantly friends.
first time I ever went fishing was, you know, I was probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old over in Queens at the park.
Yeah.
But we really got into it at my 30th birthday, and you know, for the last like 13 years, we've been fishing pretty hardcore.
Oh, he had it naturally. When we started, I took him, it was earlier than 4 or 5 years old. He was 2 or 3, like I was. Started out with a fly rod on the streams, and he's been fishing ever since.
But today, the fish do matter.
So I wasn't really happy with the way that the Ned rig was getting down. The Ned rig is kind of a light bait, so what I did was I switched up. This is a shaky head jig. It's actually called the closer. When it's in the water, it will stand straight up like that, because that is a natural kind of presentation when it's skipping around on the rocks like this.
There it is. Proof is in the pudding. Boom. Boom.
Freight trained it. Look at the mouth on this guy.
19.5 inches.
The new leader. Mega smallie. Does that look beautiful or what? beauty. Definitely think the gamble to come back here paid off.
But 5 minutes later,
I think we just won. Solid piece of heaven.
Oh, don't come off, don't come off.
Oh, he's hit all day, Jim. Just touching 20. That's it. That's game over.
You name it. That's finesse and power all at the same time. Doesn't get much better than that.
Team Root finally edges out the Dolinskis.
Really happy with the way it went down. So that about wraps it up for today.
But Team Dolinski still hasn't reported back from the swamp. And for good reason.
Yeah, this is no smack talk. Right there, right there it is, right in his mouth. There's a 2 and a 4. A double right there. All right, Jimmy.
Oh, man.
So Dolinskis take the win by almost 5 inches.
Really thankful that I didn't have to do dishes, no matter how much I love the market.
Becky, put this guy to work. Washing dishes is something that I don't have a lot of experience with.
Bro, they're not gonna wash themselves.
We're washing, less talking.
Yeah, come on.
Come on.
Get scrubbing, bro. I was a little concerned about Jordan's technique.
He didn't have that wax on, wax off effect.
No, that's what I was gonna say too.
He wasn't fully committed.
He doesn't seem like he's really giving it his all as a dishwasher. We need to see a little more flair.
It's humbling.
You know, if there's anyone I want to lose to,
Oh, yeah.
I'd say it'd be Jim.
I really am fortunate. I get to go everywhere and pretty much fish anywhere around the world, but this particular episode, being around my closest friends and family, it feels like $1 million to be home.
You know, we just hit it off. We talked about some fishing. And you know how fishing goes. Once somebody else fishes, you're instantly friends.
Real bragging rights. Hey guys, welcome to another behind the scenes portion of Real Bragging Rights. This episode was a lot of fun to shoot. I'd been looking forward to doing this for a really long time. One of the coolest parts for me about this show was getting to fish with some of my closest friends from the fishing industry, like Billy, Maddie, the Doc, Jordan and his dad. Being able to stay again with people that are like family to me, Jeff and Rebecca at the Sanctuary Inn. I can't tell you how much time I've spent up there. I really feel like when I've been on the road or when I'm starting to get burnt out, that has become my place to go and get grounded and kind of like get everything back in focus for me. Within like my first 5 casts, I knew that the power fishing deal wasn't going to work in the river that day. There was way too much current. I actually said to Bill very early on, Bill, this is not going to be, we're not going to be able to do this. It's too much current. You need to throw a Ned rig. Dropped his rod, picked up the Ned rig, and I think he caught fish on like 5 straight casts. So normally one of the great parts about that bait is how durable it is. It seems like one bait, unlike like a Senko, when you're fishing with a Ned rig, those baits you can get like 10, 15, sometimes even 20 fish on one bait. But we actually caught so many fish, we couldn't even show them all on camera. And because of that, we blew through every single Ned rig that we had. Only place we could find them was in Pulaski at Fat Nancy's. So everybody piled in their vehicles and we drove up there and we were able to get more Ned rigs and more hooks because we blew through everything that we had. And thank God they had the color that we needed, that we matched while we were launching the boat, and happened to see those crayfish claws on the dock. It was really cool. Probably the highlight for me though on that trip was
being able to catch those fish on that swim bait that I designed from Steel Shed, because that was really the first time that I knew this is going to be a swim bait deal. I'm going to get to use the swim bait a lot. And even though the current was running hard, I stuck with that bait probably longer than I should have. I should have switched over and started throwing the Ned rig like Billy was. The problem was, for me, I just loved throwing a swim bait so much, and I knew that they were going to be eating it. And I couldn't stop myself. I wanted to keep throwing it and keep throwing it and keep throwing it. Another cool scene that never made the show was that I actually caught like my biggest drum of my life. And the funny thing was, the second it hit it, I knew that it wasn't a smallmouth because it freight trained my freaking tube and almost broke my rod. I think the thing was like 12 pounds. I don't even know if we weighed it, but it was enormous. Brian got a pretty cool picture of it. But the other cool thing about this show was that the lead videographer on it was Lukas Korver. And Lukas and I actually went to high school together. He shot some incredible documentaries. You should check him out. So for him and I to have grown up and then to be able to do this together was a really special moment for me. It was great to work with him, to see him again. For us both to be in TV is pretty special. That's it. And here is that preview from the last time I was down here at Kenansville. Stay tuned for this episode. I think John and I are gonna win. See you later.
A few minutes later, I'm at 10-7. Personal best here in Florida. Thank you so much to these guys for helping me out.
All right, and where are you?
Oh, man.
Oh, look at it. Okay. Good job, baby.
Oh, baby. Giant.
Oh.
Giant.
Oh. Big fish, right, isn't it? He's jumping in.
You better not vote like that.
I just caught my PB.
Yeah, he's not done. Nice. Have you ever seen anybody do that?
11-2.
No.
What?
11-2.
11-2.